You're now listening to Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing.
The Durian Heat, bringing big ideas and critical opinions in Southeast Asia.
Hi, welcome back to Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing. You are with Grace at the Durian Heat, where we discuss matters, also issues around Southeast Asia. But now we are traveling all the way to Sri Lanka today to interview this person. Of course, he's also from Sri Lanka. His name is Harith Soysa. He's the founder of Bolgoda 360. Bolgoda is the name of the lake in Sri Lanka, and he's gonna elaborate more on what he has been doing and about his company in Sri Lanka there. So let's say hi to him. Hello.
Hi, Grace.
Hi, how are you?
Very well. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for joining our interviews this morning.
Thank you for having me over.
Okay, right. So, Harith, would you briefly introduce yourself and also a bit of company's background as well?
So basically, I was living abroad for the most part for the last 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually living in US, did my college education there and worked there for a little while. Then I returned to Sri Lanka to see what sort of opportunities there are in Sri Lanka. This was the same time when the civil war in Sri Lanka ended.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that might be a good time to come to Sri Lanka and then see what sort of investment opportunities that there might be, any business setups. So because of that, I actually left US, came to Sri Lanka, did a bit of market research, did a bit of networking around, getting to know the industrial scenario in Sri Lanka,
Mm-hmm.
the business outlook post-war.
Mm-hmm.
So I realized my background was pretty technical. I was an engineering graduate.
Mm-hmm.
So I was looking at mainly the technical aspect of things and then trying to set up projects on, tech-related projects. And then, so I realized maybe I'll sort of go back and do some business studies
Mm-hmm.
and come back, and then I'll have a broader perspective into the Sri Lankan scenario. So what I did was I left to south of France, a place called Monaco.
Mm-hmm.
I did my MBA there in applied finance.
Mm-hmm.
So during that time, I sort of got a pretty good insight into business, marketing, and financial aspects of setting up a venture.
Mm-hmm.
So while I worked there, I made a very good network, and I learned a lot about different industries, a lot to do with the business scenario.
Mm-hmm.
And then I came back to Sri Lanka. Then I sort of did more research on what there might be, what opportunities that there might be. So what I thought was I just started looking at what's there right away, what's at hand for me that I can start working on.
Right.
So then my family had this land by a lake. It's like a bare land that was just lying around. So, without going any further, I thought maybe I could just do something with that. So I did a few financial scenarios, did a few business plans. Then I realized setting up a lake resort, focusing on banquets, especially weddings,
Mm-hmm.
that seemed like a very good business opportunity. There was a business sort of need for it,
Mm-hmm.
and the financial projections, the business model looked pretty good as well. So then I started working on that, started talking to my family, and moving forward, went and talked to a few banks and got the funding sorted out. And then the whole project, I got started on that with the architects, and then myself networking with the hotel industry and then getting the experts as well. Mm-hmm. So I set up a team and then started on that. Project was started, I think, in 2011, around that time.
Mm-hmm.
Took about 2 years to complete the construction and setting up the business.
Mm-hmm.
And thereafter, it's been running for about good 2 to 3 years now.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty happy with where it has progressed so far.
Well, congratulations on that. I'm sure you have gone through quite a lot of upside downs as well. But Well, talking about the business in Sri Lanka, how is it there? What's the popular business if you look at that country, especially after Civil War?
After Civil War, there was some sort of a phase that everyone was looking at. Okay, what is there after the war? And one of the first things that came up was the travel and tourism. Sri Lanka has a very good landscape for tourism.
Yep.
The preserved culture, nice nature, wildlife, the beaches, water-related sports. So I think the government and the investment sector, they got together and then they started investing a lot on travel and tourism, setting up hotels, promoting Sri Lanka as a tourist destination. I would say the number one industry that I saw booming after the war was the tourism industry. Apart from that, there was a bit of political uncertainty. So the government toppled over. We had a new president.
Yep.
So afterwards, it sort of took a bit of a pause from there. So now we are at a position where the new government is trying to set direction. So we are trying to decide on which industries would be the focus in the future. So for the moment, tourism has been the number one industry so far.
Well, that's very good to hear. And in Sri Lanka, I mean, I was there for quite a long time as well, and it's really beautiful country. And it's also very positive to hear about how government is providing opportunities, right?
Exactly. The government is actively seeking for young people to come up and the investors to come together and then setting up new businesses. So government is actively looking at that right now.
So of course that's one of the factors that made you to, wanting to go back to Sri Lanka and start your own business there, apart from what you have studied or what you have invested your time before in colleges and universities and overseas. But if you were to make comparison, because you've also widened your views in outside of Sri Lanka, what are the differences between having business in Sri Lanka and outside?
I can directly compare Sri Lanka with US because I spent a lot of years, many years in Sri Lanka. In US. The biggest difference I see, like on the top of my head, I could just say that in US it's very, very easy to set up a business. The government entities and everything is aligned, and the procedure is set in certain way. If you want to set up a venture, it's right there. With that, everyone has the opportunity to go and set up a business. So because of that, the competition is very, very high in US. So you can set up a business. In other words, you can set up a business, but to sustain it and continue that and make it a success, it's going to be a challenge because of the competition. Whereas in Sri Lanka, it has not been that easy to do set up a business. It's not been, on the other hand, it's not been that competitive as well. So because of that, there are opportunities,
right?
But you have to work a little harder in order to make them a reality. But if you can set it up, somehow, spend a little time and extra energy on that, then you have a higher rate of success. So that's the biggest difference I see between US and Sri Lanka.
Right. Well, that's very good insight, and that's purely based on the experiences there. And yes, but let's talk about your company again, Bolgoda 360. But why did you name Bolgoda? I mean, I've shortly mentioned about it, and also 360, the number.
Bolgoda is just simply the name of the lake.
Right.
360 as in I wanted to create something that's open. So I didn't want to sort of focus my project on a certain industry or a certain business per se. So I wanted to create a public space and for people to come and occupy that, utilize that space. So I wanted to give it a name that's in tune with my thinking behind that. So I call it 360. You can pretty much do whatever you want. You want to have a wedding at my place, I can arrange that for you. If you want to have a music gig, I can do that for you. So if you want to, basically just utilizing the space.
So you provide the open platforms for public to make use of that space.
Yes.
Right.
We have a building that can accommodate about 600 people, and we have a big outdoor area as well that's open to the lake. So you have indoors and outdoors, the option of having either, and whatever that you want to do. So we just created a very open environment, so you can come and utilize that. So I think that's where the 360 came from.
So you've, started this business about 4 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, and then
about 4 years.
It's been growing pretty well, I believe. But could you share more about what you have been doing with the company so far, other than holding a few weddings or gigs? What are the other things that you have been accomplished?
Yes. So one of the biggest obstacles was when I came and tried to recruit people, was that they were pretty rigid.
Right.
People expected me to define what they have to do from A to Z. So it's as if I had to sort of list out, okay, you have to do this, you have to do that. So I was not used to that. I was pretty open-minded, and I've been exposed to a lot of different cultures.
Correct.
So I wanted to create that openness, so that people have the freedom to do what they want to do. But at the same time, they have the responsibilities in their hand, with what they do will be in harmonized with what everyone else is doing. So that was something that I tried to do while I was setting up the business. So I empowered people a lot. I gave them a lot of freedom, gave them a lot of space, and made them feel responsible at the same time, so that they will feel responsible for what they do. I think it has worked out very well. I'm pretty happy about that.
But it sounds very tricky, Harith, at the same time, because you give them freedom and also feel responsibility, both at the same time. I mean, people can't follow their policies in the company. I mean, even to create the culture in the company, it's not really easy.
It's definitely not easy. One of the factors that helped me a lot was it's not a very big organization.
Right.
I started very small, so I started recruiting people, and I knew them very personally. I got to know them personally. So what came up with that was that I could observe what they were doing. So if I had to give them direction, okay, fine, I give them direction. So in the beginning, I took a bit of a hit.
Right.
In the beginning, it was a bit of a rough phase where people felt alienated from the whole system, because that's not what they were used to. So I had to sort of take a little time, give them the space for them to grow in that, and work along with them so that they would understand, okay, fine, this is what's happening, and this is how we should work. So then they started putting themselves out.
Right.
And so in the beginning, I had a bit of a rough sort of a phase
Stages.
where I had to sort of absorb all that tension and people feeling a little confused.
Right.
But as time went by, they sort of understood that, and now anybody else, a new employee who's coming in, they very easily fit into that, because these people sort of surround them, and then they give them that sort of background. Okay, this is what we are doing. We welcome you, and this is how things work around. So I think the initial phase was that deciding factor, the deciding phase, and then afterwards, now it's sort of taking care of on its own.
Wonderful.
People are. Yeah,
very good. Well, Harith, could you just explain about your background at this moment? Because I keep hearing a lot of cars passing by. Where are you exactly?
Oh, well, so just the whole fact that I created this culture in this company, and then now people are empowered. They are responsible. They think for themselves. They're acting on their behalf. So now it's as if I don't have to be there, right? So they're working. They're pretty much self-sustaining themselves.
They're very independent from you.
Very independent, of course. I don't have to be there. So I pretty much have a lot of free time. I had a lot of free time. So I was looking at other things to do. And then, so I was doing a bit of researching and networking around. So something that just came my way was a project that would span for a couple of months.
Right.
Was to do a gem mine. So one of my friends asked me if I would like to be a part of a gem mine that's happening. So I said, yeah, I would make a small investment and I would come and work with them. So now I'm with a bunch of people at a gem mine, which is actually on the other hand is one of the leading industries in Sri Lanka. Right. Sri Lankan gems are pretty famous and
it's very well known.
very well known around the world. Sri Lankan blue sapphires and yellow sapphires. So it's very well known around the world. So it's more of a fun project, something different. I'm getting a lot of different exposure and experience.
For sure.
So I'm actually at a gem mine right now. We are mining for gems
So
at the
how
moment.
far are you away from Colombo?
It's about 200 to 250 kilometers away from Colombo.
Mm-hmm.
It's in a place called Alahara,
Okay.
one of the leading towns that produce gems.
So what are you looking for? What have you been looking for there?
Oh, we've been looking for sapphires, mainly blue sapphires and yellow sapphires, and we found a couple of them.
Oh, that's very good.
A couple of, I think we've done about 20% of the mining, and we still have a good share of mining left. Feeling hopeful, and it's really nice experience for me to be here.
Okay, cool. Well, we'll continue the conversation with Harith, but then after this short break, we're going to invite another person in our studio. So stay tuned and we'll be back.
Thank you.
Now she's walking through the clouds with a circus mind that's running wild. Butterflies and zebras, moonbeams and fairy tales. All she ever thinks about is riding with the wind. When I'm sad, she comes to me with 1,000 smiles. She gives to me free. It's alright, she says. Take anything you want from me. With a circus mind that's running wild. Butterflies and zebras and moonbeams and fairy tales. All she ever thinks about is riding with the wind. When I'm sad, she comes with 1,000 smiles.
don't get many things right the first time. In fact, I am told that a lot. Now I know all the wrong turns, the stumbles and falls brought me here. Now I see it every day, and I know that I am the luckiest. What if I'd been born 50 years before you, in a house on a street where you lived? Maybe I'd be outside as you passed on your bike. Would I know? I see one pair that I recognize, and I know that I am the luckiest. Next door, there's an old man who lived to his 90s and one day passed away in his sleep. And his wife, she stayed for a couple of days and passed away. Strange way to tell you that I know we belong, that I know that I am the luckiest.
The Durian Heat, bringing big ideas and critical opinions in Southeast Asia.
Welcome back to Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing. You're still with Grace at the Durian Heat. Let's continue our conversation. We just finished speaking with Harith from Sri Lanka, who is the founder of Bolgoda 360. Now let's move on to another business sector. And at this, we are being a bit artsy here. We're talking about photography here in all the way to Sri Lanka. And we have invited this beautiful lady. Her name is Aamina Nizar. She's a professional photographer all the way from Sri Lanka. So let's say hello.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
Thank you so much for agreeing with our interviews today.
It's great to hear from you, and it's nice to be on your show.
You're welcome. So, Aamina, can you briefly introduce yourself and what you've been doing in Sri Lanka?
Alright, so I'm 27 years old and I've been in photography for about 8 years now. I started off when I was in college and like professional in the sense that's when I started taking assignments. I was shooting before that because I loved photography, but I never thought I would make a business of it. You know, you like it. But then as I started college and I was studying media in India.
Right.
And I have a major in journalism. So after my degree, 3 years, at the end of it, I realized, okay, you know, I can do this full time and I want to get myself trained. So after I finished my degree, I applied to other photographers to be their assistants. Because I think as a photographer, the best way to learn is to learn from another photographer.
Right.
You can go for a course, you can go to college to study photography, but it's a very practical, you know, job. It's a very technical, practical, very, you know, it's not the kind of job you can learn studying or reading books.
You mean all those theories and the guidelines?
Yes. Yeah, it's not, I mean, it's good if you know them, but it's not really, I mean, from my experience, I don't think it is what, from you, it's better if you can learn from a guru.
So,
you know?
So here the practice really makes it perfect, really applies here then.
Absolutely, absolutely. So then I trained under a product photographer. So we shot in a studio and we primarily did products, food, jewelry, you know, for commercial work, which is very, very technical. It's different from, you know, when you shoot people, right? So, yes, I got trained in India after that, and then I came back to Sri Lanka, and I thought I would start my own business. So, initially I had the business on the side, but I also did freelance work for magazines, you know, so I would be because I also have a background in journalism, I could write.
Right.
Yeah, so then I would write articles and I would, you know, accompany them with photographs. I would do the interviews. So I worked for the print media for 1.5 years. And then that's after I established myself, I thought, okay, now I've made contacts and I've grown a little more. Let me start doing this on my own. So that's when I started, you know, working from home, and now I'm a freelance photographer. I do a lot of assignments. I have different clients. Every day is different. That's the best thing about being a freelance photographer.
For sure.
Yeah. And, so now it's been 5 years. It's still young business, but it's been good. And I have other people in the team working with me. So we shoot weddings, we can shoot your advertising campaigns, you know, we've shot jewelry, we've shot food for calendars. We've done a variety of work now, and recently I just shot a fashion show. So yeah, that is a little bit about my business.
Well, that's a lot of things, actually, to be honest, Aamina, that what you've been doing so far. And then you mentioned it's still a young business in Sri Lanka. What are the perception when it comes to being a photographer as a business in that country?
Well, I think I have a lot of colleagues now, so I have a lot of friends who are also photographers and who also started their businesses. And, you know, so it's been good for all of us so far because I think photography is booming. You know, you can't, photography is associated with every single business, I would say now, right? Because we live in a digital media where you go online and now it's not, you don't go to a shop and shop anymore. You're looking at pictures on the internet and shopping.
That's very true.
So every single business that I know of now needs a photographer, right? So we are taken more seriously now. Initially it was like, oh, we can try to take pictures on our own in-house. They'll try to take, but they realize the companies that do really well are the ones that have very good pictures, you know. So every single company, and we live in a world which is saturated with images, you know, even if it's not professional photography, it's all kind of pictures. So we're used to seeing pictures more than words. You know, we have Instagram, we have, you know, you go out, you see billboards, you see movies, you know, so images in every form surround us, you know. So we have, I think, an important place in the world of business in general, right? And I think like maybe 20 years ago, if you said you wanted to be a photographer, your parents wouldn't have been as supportive because, it was not something very important.
Exactly.
Very few people did it. I mean, it was more of an art then, I think, than, and if you were artistic, you came from an artistic for it, which is good. But now I think there's so many kinds of photography, catalog photo. I know some photographers who only shoot for catalogs, for online catalogs and all that. And that is also, it's a good job to do. So now people are more, if you say you want to be a photographer, you have more support.
That's very good. And then it's very interesting to look at that way, being a photographer and how you can venture yourself into different industries and around the world, basically. But, still, there are a lot of perception when it comes to, photographers in general that, how can people make money out of it? But you have been successfully doing your business so well, and being a photographer, professional photographer, you've been attending a few shows and giving speeches about that. So could you elaborate what you have done?
Last year I speak at TEDx Colombo in Sri Lanka. So we had on the panel different people from different walks of life. So there was a fashion designer, there was an advertiser, there was a politician, someone who traveled to the Antarctic, and there was a corporate person, and then they had a photographer. So I spoke about how you can't take, we live in a world where we judge the world through photographs, right? We've stopped using our own eyes. So I've stopped doing a critical analysis of how photography has impacted our lives negatively.
Right.
Even though I love photography and it's my profession, for me, I wanted the world to know that, okay, because we're behind the camera all the time, so you know what it's like. So what you see in that advertisement is not really what it is. So I gave and it was also fun. It wasn't as serious as it sounds. Like, right. It was about, you might think it's this, but it's not, So, and we're so used to, if you get dressed for a party, you don't only look at the mirror anymore. You need to check whether you look good for the photograph.
For sure, yeah.
Whether you look good in a selfie, whether that hair will look good for a selfie, So we do sort of do everything for a photograph now, and I'm like, we need to start doing more things for ourselves? So that was basically, and I spoke about my experiences working in a studio and how we arrange for a shoot, that people got behind the scenes what it's like. So one part of it was technical and one part was to, learn to separate, what is real and what is not real. And, learn to appreciate the world with your own eyes.
Right. Well, that's a really wonderful phrase that you just mentioned. Well, but to establish your own business and to be able to perhaps convince your family, especially if you're in a certain community, it's really hard, isn't it? So,
absolutely.
Have you had any difficulties when it comes to convincing your families or even relatives or friends?
Well, my family has actually been the most supportive. In fact, it was my father who thought I should have become a photographer.
Wonderful.
Because I studied journalism, so I thought maybe I will write and do media. And then he said, but you're also a good photographer, so why don't you do that? So it was his suggestion that I took seriously. And then my mother is also a creative person. So both my parents are creative people. They work in fashion and design and, so for them it was, I guess, okay to have me as a photographer. But I have had instances of people saying, oh, okay, maybe it's not especially because I'm also a girl. So when I first started photography and I was applying for jobs, they weren't sure whether to hire me because they're like, oh, you have to work till really late in the night.
Right.
And, it's very heavy work. The first person I applied to, in fact, initially rejected my application saying he didn't want to hire girls. Not because he didn't like girls, but he thought it would be inconvenient for us. So I gave him a condition. I said, you try me for a month. If you don't like me, if you don't think I can do it, it's fine. It's all right. Then you would have it would have proven that, okay, you're right, that I can't do it. It's okay. But I did do it, and he kept me. And after I finished my internship, when I went back to visit him, because this was in India,
right.
Now his studio has all girls.
Oh, that's wonderful. And then
Yeah.
it's lucky that you have a great support, especially from the parents and the family. But what are the other obstacles that you have met so far? Because you consider yourself as an entrepreneur already in Sri Lanka. And then perhaps also to add on that, could you give us a little bit of whole these images and storyline? How is the whole startup scenes like in Sri Lanka?
I guess it's like when you're a young person doing a startup, it's a matter of getting people to take you seriously. I think that's one thing all young people with startups,
For sure.
will face. So, but if you have a good idea and if you're confident and you have good work, then people will, take you, seriously. So that was one obstacle initially, because they meet me and they're like, you're very young, and they see my work and they're like, okay, you seem to know what you're doing, and so then it's fine. And then after that they keep coming back. So I think you should never be worried that you're too young to do something. If you feel you can, go ahead. You need to take that step. You need to make mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes because that's how you learn. And also about entrepreneurship, right?
Yep.
In general, I think we're lucky that we live in a world that is more conducive to entrepreneurship.
Right.
I know a lot of my friends who worked in corporate sector, who worked in different fields, maybe 5-6 years, and now they all got enough experience and they're working on their own from home. Because we have the internet now. We can, So, I mean, it's as simple as that. It's just so much easier to work from home because of technology, And also, we live in a world where so many choices. We want to do different things. We want to travel. It's easier to travel now. It's cheaper. So, everyone wants that flexibility. So, I think entrepreneurship is a great way to go about it because, you're your own boss.
Yep,
but it is also, but there are so many responsibilities. It's not easy also because, if it's completely your responsibility. If your business fails tomorrow, you could have no income. Not depending on salary, right? So it can be risky. So I guess it's important first if you can get parental support because, if you're, it's not always easy, but convincing your parents to say, okay, please believe in me. I'll give you an example recently.
Sure.
I met two boys. They were making burgers, okay, and they were young. And I went to a place called Kandy in Sri Lanka.
Yes.
And these three boys. Two of them made the burgers. The other guy did the business. And they're number one rated place to eat on TripAdvisor in Kandy. Okay, and they're only 8 months old, right? And crowded, they run out of food, they're very popular, right? Within 8 months, they have taken the business of all these established restaurants which have been there 10, 20, 30, 40 years. So, and I was just like, and they're there every day on the street. It's a little stall. So I was like, how did y'all do this? And they're like, we both studied hotel management.
Right.
And we worked in hospitality. We worked at the hotel for 1-2 years. We got our experience, and they're originally from Kandy, but they went to Colombo to, get the experience. And then we thought, what, we want to start this. And initially our parents were a little apprehensive, but we thought, we'll give it a shot. 1 year. And it's actually better if you start a business before you're 25. I just feel personally. Because, if you start too late, you get your experience, and then if you can start it between the ages of 24 and 25, at least even if it fails, you're not too old enough to go back into a normal job.
Right.
So these guys are 23, 24. They've gotten, it's 8 months old, but it's doing well, and now their parents are pretty happy that these guys are doing this.
It's something that they really prove that they can stand up their own feet.
Exactly. So make sure in that 1 year, you can't take those holidays, you can't relax. You have to work really hard. But at the end of that year, everyone will see, okay, and that your idea worked. Because it's all about having that idea,
For sure, yes.
And then it's all good. And then you can decide whether you want to continue with an experiment, or do you want to go back into, the job you had, But I think it's always, like some people say, you work till you're 30, 35 and then do if you can do it young, why not?
Right. Yes. Well, it's really not a matter of your age, but it's a matter of whether you want to do it or not, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So, yeah, that's wonderful. For sure. Wonderful. Well, Aamina, we'll take a short break here. When we come back, perhaps this time we will include you, both you and Harith, in this conversation and see where we can go.
Awesome.
What doesn't kill you makes you wish you were dead. Got a hole in my soul growing deeper and deeper, and I can't take one more moment of this silence. The loneliness is haunting me, and the weight of the world's getting harder to hold up. It comes in waves. I close my eyes, hold my breath and let it bury me. I'm not okay and it's not alright. Won't you drag the lake and bring me home again? Who will fix me now? Darling, when I'm down, save me from myself. Don't let me drown. Who will make me fine? Drag me out alive. Save me from myself. Don't let me drown. What doesn't destroy you leaves you broken instead. Got a hole in my soul going deeper and deeper, and I can't take one more moment of this silence. The loneliness is haunting me, and the weight of the world's getting harder to hold up. It comes in waves. I close my eyes, hold my breath and let it bury me. I'm not okay and it's not alright. Won't you drag the lake and bring me home again? Who will fix me now? Darling, when I'm down, save me from myself. Don't let me drown. Who will make me fine? Drag me out alive. Save me from Who will fix me now? Darling, when I'm down, save me from myself. Don't let me drown. Cause you're a sky full of stars. I'm gonna give you my heart. Cause you're a sky full of stars. Cause you light up the path. sky, 'cause you're a sky full of stars. I wanna die in your arms. Cause you get lighter the more it gets dark. I'm gonna give you my heart. I don't care, go on and tear me apart. I don't care if you do. Cause in a sky full of stars, I think I see you. I think I see
The Durian Heat, bringing big ideas and critical opinions in Southeast Asia.
Hi, welcome back to Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing. You are with Grace at the Durian Heat, where we discuss matters and issues as well as to talk about startup/business scene around the world. Now, we have been speaking to Aamina, who is a professional photographer in Sri Lanka, as well as Harith Soysa, who is the founder of Bolgoda 360 in Sri Lanka as well. It's really exciting to speaking to these two wonderful people from Sri Lanka, and it's one of, I think, first interview that we've ever had in Malaysia to invite these two people from all the way from Sri Lanka. So let's have that back here in the studio. Hello, are you guys still there?
Hi, Grace.
Hi, alright, good. So I'm very curious, how did you guys meet each other and from different industries, and how is the collaboration so far?
Harith, yeah. I think we first met each other because I was hired to shoot his property, Bolgoda 360.
Mm-hmm. And then what was your first impression of that place?
Oh, I really liked the place. I mean, I was, I think, still in construction when I went to see it.
Right.
So, I loved the lake, and I thought he had a really great idea, you know, to open this place up over there. So it was quite impressive. And yeah, and then I think some months later I needed a place to have a birthday party.
All right.
And yeah, so I remembered Harith's property, and I gave him a call, and I was like, hey, I'd like to throw my party there. And he had a barge which was on the lake, and we used that. It was a party for 25 people. And it was a lot of fun. I had a costume party, and my friends really enjoyed it, and they loved this. Two of my friends who met at that party are getting married there, I think, end of the year.
Oh, Yay! Congratulations!
So I think in a way, Bolgoda 360 is is part of our lives now. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's wonderful. So, Harith, you should say something here. Come on.
Yeah, we started professional, trying to get her to do a photo shoot, and then we ended up being friends. And then, everyone got together, and then we all became friends. And it's working and it's friends kind of relationship. I remember the party that she had. Costumes and different characters, quite different to what we usually see. That was really interesting to see that.
How different was it from the ones that you normally seen before?
This is quite themed. There was a certain theme, and everyone was dressed up to represent a certain character. So that was quite interesting, something quite different. I enjoyed myself very much, and I was a part of it as well, I guess.
Right.
Quite fun.
Yeah. So yeah, that's how it started. And then okay, fine. So I think initially we thought, okay, I'm just a photographer and he's just someone who owns this property. But I think over time we realized that we had different ideas, and I mean, I am a professional photographer, but
Right.
I do like coming up with concepts for people, even in business and in general creativity, like sometimes in 10 years I don't think I'll be a photographer. I might have branched out into something else.
Right.
And I think even with Harith, he's not someone who defines himself by just one thing he does, So the world is just like a place that's open to us to do different things, and I think that's one thing we share.
It's wonderful because when I've been speaking to you guys for the past perhaps half an hour, and that's something that I realized about you too, is you guys basically use this whole world as your playgrounds.
Well, there's a lot of people out there who have not sort of understood their dreams, and they've not been able to go out and do what they really want to do in their lives.
Right.
Instead, they've been, just doing what they've been doing. So I guess that's a great opportunity for us to go out to people, connect with people, understand them, and then get them on board, and we can do something really nice. We have a lot of opportunities around in terms of business, in terms of, creating the society moving forward. So we have a lot of people that we are trying to get together, and then we are trying to see what we can do in the future. It's just not going back to the hotel, and she's not just going back to photography like she said. So we are seeking out for opportunities. We are looking at things that people enjoy, help people move forward in their lives, help people empower themselves. So a lot of things can be done, and we're looking at it right now.
Well, and can we stay in that topic in the context of in Sri Lanka? How do you see any sort of investment more in Sri Lanka there in the business term?
Especially in terms of the services in Sri Lanka, I guess it could move a lot. It could be a lot more innovative. Servicing, providing transportation to providing telecommunication, everything could be a bit more, let's say, people oriented. So we have seen very cooperative approach towards it. We have not seen a lot of startups as yet. We have not seen individuals coming up and doing their own thing, so to sort of fill in the market gap. So I think that there's an opportunity that way in Sri Lanka right now for people to sort of go out and look at market openings, different opportunities, and then without waiting for somebody else, a corporation to come in and invest in that and make use of that. I guess people themselves can actually just go out and start working towards setting up their own startups, I guess.
But after all, it's all up to their own choices, isn't it, whether they really want to do it or not. And what do you think, Aamina, will be the element or push factor for people to go out and start their own business and be their own entrepreneurs?
I think we're talking about Sri Lanka context,
Yeah.
right? So we had a war for 30 years and we've only been out of it for 6 years now. So I think in the last 6 years is when we actually saw the proper startup buzz happening and people starting companies and investment coming in because, okay, the war is over. So foreigners were more, okay with the idea of investing in Sri Lanka. So we have a very young startup culture compared to other countries in Asia, like
Right.
India, Malaysia, Singapore. I think we're probably one of the youngest.
Right.
But it's also a really great, because it's such a new market for everything. It's a really great place to start something new because we haven't really been, it's not saturated.
I see.
So like Malaysia, Singapore, India, there's still a certain amount of saturation because they've been part of the startup, entrepreneur market for a while. That environment has existed. But whereas here it's all very new. So if you want to start a business, I think it's a good place to start because, you don't have a lot of competition, so it's easy to get higher. Now it's growing, but I think part of the reason why, you did see a lot of startups coming up and doing really well, is because it's a new market. So I think that's a positive thing actually, So so it's a good time to start now in Sri Lanka.
How easy to establish a business there in Sri Lanka now, especially after there is a new president coming up and then the war is over? Is a government really providing more opportunities, especially for younger generation? So also at the same time, I'm talking about the programs or training programs for younger generation to be more innovative and progressive.
Harith, what do you think?
I think we are starting to realize that in terms of any mechanisms that are there right now, I think it's being fabricated. So it's still pretty open and it's pretty new, like Aamina mentioned. So in terms of coming up with platforms or mechanisms to sort of help you launch your business startups, I think it's still in the pipeline, it's still coming up. So I guess that's why, like you said, it's a lot of opportunities out there right now. Interesting place to be in.
How about you, Aamina? What's your perspectives in this?
Currently, like in terms of, what platforms are available for people to launch, right? So I'm not sure if the government has a lot. They have, but it's just that right now there is so much focus on everything else.
Right.
You do have a lot of private enterprises that you could go to get support, and a lot of we have a lot of our educated youngsters living abroad for a while and working there and getting contacts, and they've all recently started moving back. Like even Harith is somebody who moved back,
Exactly.
because there's so much potential in the country. So there are a lot of people like Harith as well there's also a lot of people who never left Sri Lanka,
Right.
So they don't have the same amount of exposure or experience. So you do have people like Harith coming back and looking out for these people and sort of, giving them that opportunity, extending, some kind of support. So that I've seen happening. So it's actually individuals really who have come back and who are helping each other out, to set up, companies or, businesses and
That's really wonderful. A lot of people really need to look around, outside of their own countries, and it's also wonderful to hear that a lot of youngsters who study abroad, they are coming back to their own country and contribute their ideas to make the whole community better. And of course, Harith and you are one of them, of course. So let's go back to your business, photography and Bolgoda 360 here. Do you have any other future plans that you guys been talking about? Thinking outside the box kind of thing.
We've been doing a lot of brainstorming.
We have been discussing things, I think.
I see, right. Yeah. Oh, is it still on the progress that you guys are not supposed to reveal?
Not exactly like that, but I think we did share ideas recently, and I think there's something we'd like to do for artists in Sri Lanka. I think that's something Harith had an idea about,
I see.
I think he had an idea about working with some artists in Sri Lanka, like from all sectors of, music, art, all that. And I'm working on some projects with a friend of mine as well, so which is not entirely photography related, but it's hoping to come out soon. I'll send you a link when it does. And so I think it's a fresh ground to start a lot of things, and it's great to have all these people who've lived abroad coming back. I think that's like one thing that's helping.
It's really wonderful to speak to both of you at Durian ASEAN here, and I'm really thankful that I was able to invite both of you to our studio. That's actually the end of our interviews today. Is there any message that you would love to send out to our listeners?
Like what Aamina has been saying, it's a new place. It's been open for about 6 years now. So there's a lot of opportunities, and there's a lot of openness, open mind, and a lot of people coming back to Sri Lanka. So I guess we're just sending out an invitation for people to connect with us and try and work together.
Right. How about Aamina?
And if you're starting up something on your own, never be daunted that, don't be defined by something specific, open up. If you want to do something, even if you don't make food today, you can make it tomorrow and make a business out of it, So just think that there are no limits.
All right. Well, thank you so much, both Harith and Aamina, and I hope to speak to you guys soon again.
All right. Great.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye. Have a good day.